In this episode, we talk about whether or not amino acids can improve your mood and brain health.
It's an interesting conversation. We talk with Erica from Prepare Your Mind. They are an amino acid supplement company started by Zach Williams after his dad, Robin Williams, passed away tragically, and he needed some mental support. So at the very end, Chloe and I actually decide that Prepare Your Mind is...
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Decision Lab podcast. Today, we are talking to Erica Berthold from Prepare Your Mind. Welcome, Erica. We're so excited for this convo today.
So excited to be here.
I'm pumped. I love these products, and I'm excited that we got to kind of research them for the pod. So before we get into Prepare Your Mind, though, we'd like to get to know you a little bit. So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, who is Erica?
I was an ice hockey player for many years. I played at the collegiate level, but unfortunately, ice hockey also gave me 8 head injuries and kind of really drived my passion for helping those who are, concerned about brain health and going through struggles with their own mental health. When I was recovering from my 8th injury as an ice hockey player, anxiety spiraled, I had depression for the first time in my life. My mood was all over the place, incredibly irritable, and I became so passionate about helping others have that conversation if they're not comfortable doing it. I definitely existed in a time where I didn't think I could speak about what was happening, not only inside my brain and inside my mind, but, with my internal thoughts. And now I hope to continuously, whether it's in my personal life or in my career, give people a safe space to have those conversations.
Dang. Yeah, that's wild. I got some concussions playing college basketball, so I feel you on this concussion journey. What about when did you decide you're going to play hockey? Like, were you always interested in hockey? Like, when did that become part of your life?
I call it love at first sight. I was actually a really young kid in Massachusetts. My mom was driving me home one day and I saw kids playing street hockey. And I kind of did a double take, jumped in the back seat, was peeking out the back seat and going, "Mom, what is that?" And she's laughing at me, going, "My daughter's going to be in a tutu on figure skates before she's playing ice hockey." Put me into figure skating lessons, and all I would do was race all the other kids across the ice because I wanted to go fast. And finally, after 2 years, she gave in and allowed me to play. And I thank her so much because I ended up being, I think skating was my strong suit thanks to the figure skating lessons.
So she low-key contributed to the hockey career, but not even intending to.
She really tried to not make it happen. And I get it, right? You think of your daughter on figure skates before you think of, her with a ice hockey stick.
Yeah, fair enough. That's wild. So then you played when you were young, middle school, high school. You were in Massachusetts. Did they just have hockey teams in high school? Like, my high school didn't have a hockey team.
I actually played in high school, mainly in Virginia and Seattle. And no, I played with the boys growing up in what's called house leagues, rec leagues. And then I would travel around with a few girls teams, like girls travels teams, to go to tournaments and that type of thing.
Wow. And then how does that translate over to professional or collegiate, I guess? Did you play professional or was it collegiate?
I played in college. So I played D3 hockey in Minnesota.
What school did you play at in Minnesota?
It's called Augsburg. It used to be called Augsburg.
Oh my
College.
God, dude. You're kidding me. I went to Simpson College up in Iowa. That's crazy. Okay, so you played hockey in Minnesota. That checks out. What happened after college?
I moved to California. I said I paid my dues for 4 years in the freezing cold, and I just kind of packed up my car and drove out to California. So I, kind of throughout college, I worked on sports marketing with other CPG brands. I was a field marketing rep for Muscle Milk. And when I moved out to California, I also started working at Quest Nutrition. I always had kind of this love of both health and wellness, the products you consume, and obviously the fitness aspect.
That is what. So did you ever meet Tom Bailu?
He's who interviewed me.
No freaking way. Tell me your Tom Bailu story. Is there any notable stories you have of him or being around him or working for him?
This is what I'll say here. Tom was one of those people who really cared about the people he hired. And always his top interview question, at least back when I was there, was not just what someone could do for Quest Nutrition, but what Quest Nutrition could do for someone else's passions. And really tried to figure out if he could hire people where, you know, they were able to exercise whatever muscle they were trying to excel at in their life through the work that they were doing at Quest. And it was one of his biggest things, was to give not only people a job, but making sure that it was fueling their longer term vision in life.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. So Muscle Milk, Quest, then what?
And then I hopped around jobs for a little bit, and I decided to play ice hockey down in Orange County, where I got my 8th career-ending brain injury, TBI, and it took me 4 years to recover from it. And during that time, I actually stopped working for companies and became a consultant. I could work for myself, control when I went to doctor's appointments. I didn't have to tell clients that I was battling a brain injury, and could just work when I felt on and rest when I needed it.
Damn.
What was that recovery process like?
Yeah.
And what was like, how much have you improved since then? Obviously a lot, but I'm really curious about the whole process.
Yeah, I mean, I think really early on, I think the people who were closest to me were probably a little scared. I kind of was in one of those situations where someone would tell me a story and I would ask them to repeat it again right after they told me the story. There's about 9 months of my life. I truly don't fully remember where I was, what I was doing. I had to go on, short-term disability at the job I initially was at, and I couldn't work. I think it took me like an hour and a half to send one email. Just my brain's ability to think and do what it needed to do wasn't there. And so, kind of that's what really triggered the transition to working for myself. That was, maybe a year or two after that time frame. I was a little bit more, I was starting to get my cognition back, but I had debilitating headaches and I was nauseous all the time. I would go through like these odd 2-week periods where I would just throw up after everything I ate because my equilibrium, my brain didn't know where I was on this earth anymore. And, kind of went through many, many different phases of healing, remembering where I was and the conversations I was having, to then dealing with chronic pain and headaches. And kind of that was the final chapter of it. And what actually ended up helping me most was working with a cranial osteopath, where my journey was interesting. I had several doctors telling me that I had a neck injury, but a lot of people didn't know how to heal that neck injury. And so if you think about the brain and the spine and the central nervous system, it's all correlated. So a lot of people were treating me for post-concussion syndrome when I actually had a misaligned spine at the base of my skull, and it was compressing on my spinal cord and causing extreme dysregulation in my central nervous system, which is where blurry vision, headaches, the nausea was coming from, and most importantly, incredible changes in my mood. There's like specific parts of your spine, including the C3, that is known for triggering anxiety, and my C3 was always misaligned. And what was unique about it is I had x-rays done showing this. MRIs didn't catch it, but x-rays did, and no doctor could tell me what to do about it. And then that's when I found cranial osteopathy, and that's when I really started to turn a corner. And it took about 15 sessions over 9 months with him, and I never had the same neurological symptoms again.
Dang. That's inspiring. What was this like mentally and emotionally? Like physically, it sounds like a nightmare, but what about mentally? Because I know my concussion, they were nowhere near as bad as yours. Let me be clear. But mentally and emotionally, they took it out of me, especially as an athlete, just that athlete mentality. What was that like?
I think you reach an interesting place in life when you're so excited to go to sleep every night and are dreading waking up every single day. There was not an ounce of me that wanted to live in my physical body anymore. That's how uncomfortable it was. And I remember I would wake up every single morning and I would immediately look at the time, not because I had to be anywhere or do something. Simply, I wanted to know how many hours I had to be awake for.
Dang. That's wild. What did you do in that vein? Like, how did you work with the mental and emotional side? You did the osteopathy for the physical side, but What support did you get on the mental and emotional side?
I think it was about a year in, I found a phenomenal sports psychologist out here. Sports psychology is not, there's not a lot of them, but I found one who was phenomenal to work with and really kind of grappled with, the two things, which was how do you, as an athlete, how do you live in a body that one is in chronic pain, but two cannot perform the way it used to, can't think the way it used to, it can't be physically active the way it used to be. How do you grieve that? And then the second part of working with the sports psychologist was also grieving the loss of my identity as an ice hockey player. Who was I without that sport? I'm sure that's
Holy
something similar
crap.
you've gone through.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when it's taken from you, or it feels like it's taken from you by this thing you can't control. Like some external force decided for me that I'm no longer a basketball player after it being a central part of my identity for, at that point, 20 something years probably. So I'd imagine it was similar for you. What were some of the key things that you took from your time with that sports psychologist on recreating your identity and grieving your identity? That's a really interesting concept.
I think I was re-exploring what it meant to be human. And, when you're an athlete performing at a certain level and you can do things that a lot of other people can't, you feel superhuman. And I felt like I was being brought down to kind of like reality a little bit in many different ways and looking at my strengths outside of, what I could do in a ice rink. What are my strengths that I have to offer to the clients I was working with and the relationships I had at the time, and being far less focused on just physical.
Was there any amount of like how'd you keep hockey or ice hockey? Something that you keep saying is ice hockey. I only call it hockey. Like do you say ice hockey for a specific reason, or is that
I grew up mainly playing in Virginia. It wasn't popular there, and so everybody always asked field or ice. And so I say ice hockey because I assume people assume it's a different type of hockey.
was there a way that you kept hockey or that you currently keep hockey in your life after this?
I don't think consciously. Do I like to watch hockey from time to time? Sure. But I think the lessons you learn from playing team sports can't go anywhere. And I think still to this day, my work ethic, my biggest joke is I don't know someone who can outwork me in any sense. And so I would say that's kind of what is always replicable. And then always wanting to be in a team environment. I don't do well in, I think every environment needs autonomy, but I do not understand any like friend group, partnership, or like, work environment that doesn't have a team mentality.
I like that. It begs the question. I work a lot with achievers in general, and they get stuck in what I call the hustle and hibernate mode, where they gas pedal their nervous system into stress. And then they actually, they're not resting really, they're collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go back to stress and collapse and stress and collapse, stress and collapse. Has that ever been a cycle you've been stuck in? If so, how'd you get out?
1,000%.
Loaded question. Loaded question.
Well, the question is, are you out?
There we go. Even better question.
Yeah. I think I understand and what the gift the brain injury gave me. Do that again. The gift the brain injury gave me is hyper awareness of when I'm dysregulated. And I think it's very easy for high achievers to fall into that pattern. And I think I've shortened that pattern, if that makes sense. So I'm not in those cycles of going into burnout and crash as long or as quickly as I used to be. I don't think if you have a certain mentality in life to do a lot, that it's avoidable. But I do think you can, kind of work with your system a little bit better.
Do you have any specific tools that you use to help yourself prevent burnout?
PYM's mood magnesium powder is my number one easiest tool to implement. My biggest thing is sleep. I really believe that I can have high output mentally, physically, if I'm always prioritizing sleep. Some people think I'm very weird for this. Unless I have to be awake for something incredibly early, I set 0 alarm clocks. I allow my body to sleep as long as it needs to and to wake up when it feels rested. And, again, to kind of help facilitate the sleep at night with the mood magnesium, and then allowing your body to get the full rest it needs before it gets jolted awake, but can organically wake up, is one of the biggest things I've found that for my brain nervous system can help avoid burnout.
Dude, anyone who talks shit about you doing that, let them know that I, a neuroscientist, also do the same exact thing. I do not set an alarm. I just let my body take as much rest as it needs. I do the same thing.
And I think if you really understand neurochemistry, circadian rhythms, and how the brain works, you absolutely would never not adopt these tools, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Sleep is the number one most important. It literally is when you clear out stress from your body. It's actually really interesting. The ventricles of your brain and your whole brain is like squished like this during the day. And at nighttime, when you lay back, it opens up like this. And then these jets of cerebral spinal fluid shoot through all of the cells of your brain and wash out all of the trash into your ventricles and out it, you excrete it. But it's kind of interesting to know what happens when you sleep. And when you don't sleep, that doesn't happen. So that's problematic, to say the least. But I like that. Yeah, it's interesting getting out of that. It is much easier to prevent burnout than it is to recover fully from it when you're fully depleted. So sleep is a big one. Are there any other things that you do, or signals or signs that you know of, like, oh, okay, I'm gas pedaling a little too hard, maybe time to tap the brake a little?
Headaches. So,
Ooh.
I would say my mind and body is still prone to headaches. And if I'm going to a headache from staring at a screen too long, or if I'm just putting in long hours, the tension will build. And that's typically my biggest sign to take somewhat of a break. And then my tool for that, I walk endlessly. I will walk until stress leaves my body. I will walk until I'm not, taking that full step away from a screen, whatever it is. And I find my mood is definitely correlated to how many steps I'm doing. If I'm doing under 10,000 steps, I'm more irritable. If I don't go for a morning walk in the morning, I have a shorter fuse during the day, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes so much sense. And neuroscience very much supports that key finding. Light in your eyes in the morning, walking burns cortisol. So yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. You can actually extend cortisol.
The recent studies about the bilateral eye movement is what's fascinating to me too, because, a lot of people tie that to EMDR and, kind of working through trauma. But the fact that walking can simulate the same receptors in the brain is fascinating to me.
Yeah. Not only can it stimulate it, but when Francine Shapiro, the founder of EMDR, created EMDR, she did it by noticing that when she was walking with her trauma patients, they could process and work through their trauma more effectively. And she studied, you guys have probably never seen them, but there are these glasses that put these magnifying glasses or little cameras on the eyes of people, and you put them on research participants, and you can see specifically what their eyes are doing. There's so many reasons why you'd use it. But when they were walking, she noticed the bilateral stimulation, the back and forth movement of the eyes. And she's like, I wonder what that is. And EMDR was born. So not only is it similar, it's how they literally founded EMDR.
Wow. I mean, I always knew that walking was such a tool for me, but I had no idea that was the founding story.
Yeah, no, it is. Because of the way that your eyes have to move when you walk. So it's wild and super powerful, which also why zebras don't have, well, we don't have to go there, but zebras don't have ulcers, and cavemen didn't get ulcers either because they were walking much more. And surprise, surprise, they were able to release trauma more. I digress. Let's talk about PYM before we dive into that rabbit hole, which I would love to do. So claim to fame, the first thing that we ask in claim to fame section is literally just tell us what Prepare Your Mind is and why we should care in 60 seconds.
60 seconds. Are you going to time me?
No, we're not going to time you, but we'll ask you lots of follow-up questions. But just lay the foundation in 60 seconds.
PYM is a mental health forward dietary supplement that is solely focused on amino acids to not only provide immediate support to your mood, but also help rewire your brain for long-term resilience to stress.
Wow. I'm impressed. Honestly,
I've never had to say that before.
Most concise we've ever had it on here. Surprise, surprise. What's your role at PYM. I think that will help people understand why you were so concise in your answer.
As of this week, I'm just gonna. This is like new for me to talk about, and I don't even know if you guys know this. As of this week, I am CEO of PYM. I am transitioning from general manager to CEO, but I started off as PYM's head of marketing shortly after they launched during the pandemic in 2020.
Holy shit. I didn't even know this. We've been working together for months.
I know.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Amazing.
Yeah, why in the 15 minutes before we go live this wasn't brought up? I don't know. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about, let's just dive in here. All right, so if I'm using Mojo gummies, why should I use PYM instead?
Well, technically you can always use both. It's never necessarily an either or. I think my personal stance on supplements and products is about finding what works for you. I would say the key difference between PYM and Mojo is we're solely focused on amino acids. Amino acids are typically the safest, quickest, most effective way to manage your mood. Other things like adaptogens work incredibly well, but they don't have the same long-term benefits on your neurochemistry that amino acids typically do. And some people are sensitive to adaptogens. Certain ones can be inflammatory or can have more negative side effects. So it just kind of depends on your own mind and body.
Chloe, can you define adaptogen for us, just briefly, for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah. Basically, a supplement or herb that helps you to manage stress.
So like reishi mushrooms or like lion's mane or like king trumpet, like, okay, yeah. Got it. Okay. What's the key difference between amino acids and adaptogens then, Erica?
The key difference is, amino acids are the building blocks to your mind and brain. A lot of people think about it with bodybuilders being the building blocks to muscles. They think of bodybuilders drinking amino acids in the gym. However, what PYM is trying to do is flip the script and, have people understand that amino acids are also the building blocks to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Connect the dots for them. I mean, obviously I understand what neurotransmitters and things are and like how they're created, but how are amino acids the building blocks of what's going on in your brain?
So, one of the main amino acids that PYM has been focused on since the beginning is GABA. And what a lot of people don't know is GABA is already a naturally occurring neurotransmitter in your brain. And it is one of the few neurotransmitters that you can actually directly supplement. GABA is found in kimchi. It's also the thing in alcohol that makes you feel calm. And GABA as a neurotransmitter is in charge of your fight or flight system. So when you're directly giving it the amino acids that, target that system, and specifically you can give GABA immediately, it pulls you out of that fight or flight mode. However, there's a lot of clinical study that shows that, the long-term use of GABA can also have an immediate effect on neurologically training your brain to feel calmer over time. Whereas, the biggest adaptogen that people think of is ashwagandha for stress. And I call, ashwagandha a Band-Aid, right? It is going to help you there in that moment. And a lot of people feel the effects of ashwagandha. But then what is it doing for your brain long term? And can it be as safe and effective as, amino acids? I can also give you a story. When we launched the original Mood Chew, it initially had rhodiola in it, which is a phenomenal plant in Iceland. It is really phenomenal on helping stress. And unfortunately, we got a lot of customer feedback that either they were allergic to rhodiola or it caused stomach distress. And so that is also the, aspect of adaptogens that is unique with plants. There's just a higher chance that either someone is allergic, will get an inflammatory response, or an upset stomach from it. Those side effects are typically non-existent with amino acids.
Dang. Yeah, I didn't think about that, honestly. It's a great point. I love rhodiola rosea personally. I think it's better than ashwagandha, low key, but
I agree, but we took it out of our formula to make sure that everybody could get the benefits. We even had, a lot of top, wellness influencers would kind of complain to us about that one ingredient. And we just really listened and PYM's biggest mission is making sure that we have products that are accessible to anyone. Anyone can take it, and there's no barrier to taking it. And so removing the rhodiola was a easy choice for us. And what we then did is kind of change the dosing and relook at the research and make sure that you're getting the right dose of GABA and L-theanine, so that way you still felt the effects in the same way.
It's one of Chloe's favorites, L-theanine.
Oh,
I don't know if we've ever been on a call where the L-theanine word didn't come up, Chloe.
I like literally live and breathe for L-theanine, so it's probably my favorite supplement. Yeah, I agree with the decision to remove rhodiola. I find people get very variable effects from it. For example, for me, it gives me anxiety, which is the opposite of what it should do.
Yeah.
But like I don't think I can take anything with rhodiola in it.
Wow, that is insane. Well,
Or too much rhodiola.
I was today years old when I learned this. That's wild. But fair enough. Why start? What's the founding story? Like, there's so many supplement companies out there. Why start Prepare Your Mind?
PYM was started by Zach Williams, who is the son of the late Robin Williams. And unfortunately, after his dad died by suicide, he had to grieve that in, kind of the social light. And it took a really big toll on his own mental health. And his wife, Olivia, turned him on to GABA during that time, and he felt such an effect on his anxiety within 24 hours and his depression within a week that he felt like more people needed to know about it. And when they really dove into the science and the best ways to deliver GABA, there wasn't a really great sublingual option on the market, and they decided to start PYM to make the original mood chew more accessible. And PYM is actually his middle name given to him by Robin. It stands for Prepare Your Mind, as we believe in having a proactive approach towards mental wellness instead of reactive. You shouldn't have to be grieving in loss or have to go through something traumatic to prioritize your mental well-being.
Damn. So it sounds like it started with the mood chews, or in that direction. What are some of your guys' other products? What else?
We, I'm like, where do I want to go with that? We had such success with the amino acids in the mood chews. We started thinking about what other amino acids or baseline nutrition that your brain needs to feel optimized. So we then looked at kind of like that core baseline, nutrients that any brain would need to kind of be able to manage their mood. And we launched kind of what we call our reset kit. And these are the things that you could and should take every day to just give your brain, just to replenish what stress is depleting your brain of on a daily basis. And so that's methylated B vitamins, omega-3s. I think that's kind of like the top one anyone thinks about brain health. Our mood biotics, which are prebiotic and probiotic strains that specifically help support serotonin production in the gut. As I always assume people know these stats, but 95% of your serotonin production starts in your gut. So how do you make sure that you're feeding it what it needs to do that effectively? And then was our mood magnesium powder, which includes a magnesium blend that actually breaks through the blood-brain barrier, and specifically is there to help target rest and reset while you sleep. And then we added in core amino acids that also support your stress response.
Beautiful. A smattering of products and services, it sounds like.
I didn't even get to attention chews yet.
Yeah, I know. It's Chloe's favorite. Well, talk about it. What are your attention chews? I use those all the time. Got it right here, if anyone's curious.
I think the one thing that PYM has done phenomenally well, and what we will continue to prioritize, is picking up on mental wellness needs that are most prominent. And so, we started off with the mood chew during the pandemic when stress and anxiety was one of the biggest mental health concerns. And then a couple years later, people were working from home. They weren't, getting the social interaction, and inability to focus became one of the most, the top complaints that we were seeing, kind of on the market. And so then we developed the attention chew, which is core amino acids that target your dopamine system. So you don't only stay focused, but you feel motivated to do what you need to do. It's another phenomenal anti-burnout product.
Beautiful. I love it. I'm excited to dive into some of the science on some of these things too. Before we do though, who's your guys' ideal customer? And what do you hope for them?
I would say that my ideal customer is anyone who wants to withstand stress, not avoid it. Our ideal customer is someone who understands that stress happens in life and isn't going to run away with it, but wants to build a mind and a body that can withstand no matter what that is. That's my ideal. I understand that that is maybe not the bigger customer base. Generally speaking, we've had a lot of success with actually boomers. Boomers are some of our most loyal customer base. And it's because they really understand not only can you feel better that day, but what are you doing from a preventative brain health aspect? And how are you giving your brain what it needs to prevent neurodegeneration or whatever it might be?
We got to get more of these Gen Zs and millennials in this as well. They understood the benefits of their brain not bathing in oxidative stress for 20 or 30 plus more years. How much longer and like more clear their brain would be long term would be amazing. But alas,
I think they're
we'll get
there. I
there.
think Gen Z is actually paving, millennials started to do it, but Gen Z is paving the way around these conversations surrounding mental health in general. I think it excites me because it means that for quite a bit of time, I know that this is going to be at the forefront of any health and wellness conversation is what is happening in your mind, not just your body. And I really do see those generations paving the way for having the conversations.
I agree. I think it's interesting. We had Dr. Rabin on recently, or maybe I was just talking to him offline. I can't remember, but he was talking about how mind brain separation is a myth or something that he wishes he could eradicate from people's perspectives because it would help so much with this type of conversation, like understanding how amino acids in your body affect your brain, which affects your mind because they're the same thing, and how the mind came around because Descartes was like, oh, well, there's this observer. So this observer must be separate from my physical thing, even though that like science doesn't support that. And if you get a mental or emotional health, it affects you physically, and physical health can affect you mentally and emotionally. So there's not this separation, and it just makes a direct line on how like preparing mind products and services and things like that could and can affect physical, mental, and emotional aspects of you, your mind, your brain, and your body.
Well, that's the thing. You say brain health, and most people know what that means. They think cognition, they think about that muscle or whatever. And what they don't realize is how that affects the mind, being your thoughts and how you're moving throughout the world and what you're thinking as you move throughout the world. And a lot of people do not see that.
No, they don't. It's interesting because it can be useful, to be honest with you. Like in a trauma therapy setting, it can be kind of useful at times to believe in the delusion in a way. I mean, it's kind of like the concept of free will. I don't believe we have like total free will, but it's a good delusion to believe in so that you have like feel like you have agency in your life necessarily, but that's a whole separate thing. I'll save that for Philosophy Club on Friday. Let's move into the lab section where we dive a little bit deeper into some of the science. Top of your head, or not top of your head, but just first off, is any research or peer-reviewed studies or things like that behind your guys' products?
Every single ingredient was chosen based off of peer-reviewed studies.
Nice. Is there any research that's done with your product specifically, not just the individual ingredients?
No, but we want to. So we've done early consumer-based studies specifically with our mood chew, but we actually, are investing into doing clinical double-blind, studies specifically with our products, hopefully within, the next 12 months.
Damn. Yeah, that's awesome. I like that.
Really
You guys have a cool, you go, Chloe.
I'm really curious as to why you chose a chew for the delivery format for the supplement. It's a really nice experience, but I'm just, curious how you landed on that decision versus, sublingual or a capsule.
Absolutely. When you chew amino acids, they become more bioavailable and they actually work faster. So if you chew GABA, you will feel the effects faster. And you'll see that they'll put 750 milligrams of GABA into a pill, and you might actually feel that less than if you just chew 130 milligrams of it. And so everything, and even our chews, the flavor of it is designed to make you salivate, because when you salivate, it also increases the bioavailability. So, we wanted to be conscious of taste. Not everybody loves sour and tart products, but it is by design, so that way you feel the effects at a greater level.
That's
It
so
all
interesting.
makes more sense now. I literally salivate so I'm like a freaking dog when I eat these. I'm just even thinking about chewing one. I'm salivating more. It's like thinking about biting into a lemon right now. Like
It
that's
tastes
wild.
really good. Like I have to restrict myself. I'm like, okay, I can't quad down on GABA or L-theanine. I'll be sleepy. But they taste
It's
amazing.
it's why we called it a chew instead of a gummy. A
Yeah.
gummy you would chew quicker, and so the
Hmm.
longer you chew the product and it stays in your mouth, the quicker you'll absorb it. So we always describe it more like a starburst texture. Takes a minute,
Hmm.
but also the art of mastication, which means to chew, actually already triggers the brain to calm down. And so we also are triggering that before you've even taken in the amino acid and hoping that your brain is getting that signal to calm down.
How did you guys test this stuff, or how did you come up with these concepts initially?
Everything was formulated with neuroscientist and nutritional psychiatrist. So Cody, as you sitting there with a neuroscience background, think about if you were to develop a product. How could you not think about how all these little intricacies would affect your mood and brain health down from flavor, taste, not just the formulation, but the delivery experience as well?
Dude, don't put me in that bucket. There's no shot that I'd be thinking about, oh, this flavor, like that is such a level of granular detail that I am blown away and impressed. But that's awesome. I mean, that you guys did that. A question I have is about your guys' like dosages. Oftentimes, what we'll see when we work with or when we have supplement companies on, there's difference. There's a difference in, and this is hard when you're putting a lot of stuff into one chew or one product, but there's a mismatch in clinical research that people claim on their websites and stuff, and the actual dosages in products and things like that. Like for tyrosine, clinical research suggests like 500 to 2,000 milligrams a day, and I think there's like 54. What is it? 54 milligrams in attention chews. How do you think about that as you're building a product and the effects that you claim they have?
We also, a huge part of dosing for us is developing products that you can take together or with the other amino acids. So, yes, maybe if you were only taking tyrosine, that is the clinical dose to feel that effect. But we're looking at the combination of everything. We also don't believe in proprietary blends where you don't actually know what you're taking. Everything is broken down individually for a reason. And I would also say that we forget that everybody's brain is very different. Yes, you can do clinical studies and get these statistics and these data points, but at the end of the day, how tyrosine affects your brain versus Chloe's brain versus my brain will remain different. So what is the safest yet still effective dosing that you can put into each product? And that's how we think about it.
How do you figure that out? Like, that's just so, I agree. It's just crazy because I feel an effect. Chloe feels an effect objectively, but the clinical research says that for this ingredient or whatever, and then composition fallacy, like, or the borrowed science perspective, if you put things together, they may interact differently. And like, how does one figure these things out? Like, it always blows my mind when I hear this from companies.
Ask the customer. We are never going to develop a product that doesn't get into the hands of our customers for feedback as well. So, for context, our attention chew dose used to be, we used to put 3 gummies or chews per serving as a dose. And we changed that based off of the market research we were doing with our customers actually trialing the product. Everybody was reporting such a strong effect that we realized that 3 for the baseline individual is too much. And so, why not always start lower and work your way up? Again, everybody is different. Everybody metabolizes everything at a different rate, including amino acids. So what are you doing, to make sure that you're covering the baseline majority of people to get the safest, most effective dose? And then how can you help layer in for those who might need the extra support?
Got it. Makes sense. What about like outside of your guys' own company, is there people that validate like manufacturing process, like any of that kind of stuff, like GMP stuff? I didn't see any explicit GMP certification stuff. Chloe knows more about this than I do, but I was curious about that.
All of our manufacturers practice and are certified and follow good manufacturing practice. Absolutely. We also, do third-party testing. We test just about every batch for the effective dosing to make sure that each chew does have what the supplement facts say. And we make sure that each batch is also tested to make sure that nothing unsafe gets into it.
Beautiful. Something I noticed as well, and we've talked to other companies about this, is small batch is something that you guys talk about.
Correct.
It's on your packaging somewhere. I was trying to find on these tins, but it's not on there. I don't know where I saw it, but maybe it's on the main package. Could you explain what small batch stickers? There it is. Could you explain what small batch manufacturing is and just like pros and cons and things of that?
Absolutely. So it is to maintain quality control of the product. We're an all natural vegan 0-gram added sugar gummy with a high dose of amino acids. It is something that is very hard to do at larger scale. So we do more volume of smaller batches in order to maintain the dosing, the ingredients, and the true quality at the front of the batch all the way through the back of the batch. So one thing that happens is L-theanine burns off during heat, and it can change the flavor of your product. It can also heat. The processing of the sugars can all have a different effect on each batch. And so whenever you're doing it as small batch, you have more control over that.
Did not even know about that. Who was the one, Chloe, that told us about small batch stuff?
Dr. Doug's Miracle Bombs.
Yes. They're the first ones that kind of taught us or talked to us about what small batch and stuff was. So that's interesting. But I had no idea about that makes so much freaking sense in the supplement space because they're like a miracle balm for like calluses and like all sorts of stuff. It's a miracle balm. You can put it anywhere. But I didn't ever think about it in relation to supplements. That makes so much more sense. Now I'm low-key about to look at every supplement I use.
We've had a lot of manufacturers turn us down, or we even had a scenario a couple years ago where our top manufacturer said, we're not going to produce your product anymore. It's too difficult to make at volume. And so how do you build a business that knows how to keep up with the volume and do this in small batches in a way that is still scalable, but isn't going to take away from the integrity of the product? The easy fix for us would be to add sugar to the product. We could then move into bigger batches and, manufacture in a completely different way. But sugar is not your best brain food. So we are not willing to sacrifice on these small things that we think make a massive difference.
Thank God. We don't need any more sugar in anything. What about downsides? Are there any downsides, side effects, like things people should be aware of? Maybe people who should think about not taking your guys' products or services or supplements?
Biggest disclaimer, if you're on any other medication, always consult with your doctor first. And, we really stand by that. We stand by the fact that everybody's brain is different. And the biggest thing with supplements, hopefully if they're safe with low side effects, you try it, you see if it works for you. And I did a very interesting thing recently where I actually combined all of our customer reviews across platforms, like anything that is a public review left on our website, Amazon, Target.com, and I collected them all and I put it into ChatGPT. And I asked how many customers leaving reviews are talking about, feeling the effects of our products. And it was about 80%. And that is not going to negate the fact that 20% didn't. But I like the 80% number. And, it's just, again, what works for Cody's brain versus Chloe's brain versus mine is made to be different.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear about some of the clinical research and trials and different things like you guys get into as well. Because that'll be, depending on the research setup and such, there's just a lot of stuff that could be done in relation to that. But I digress. I was randomly thinking about research design. My bad. Let's move into interrogation. Skeptical buyer, putting on our skeptical buyer hat and having a conversation about some of the stuff that we see from Reddit all over the place, the interwebs, things people DM us. I mean, just off the bat, what criticisms or skepticisms do you guys get just in general from your perspective?
I would say being a natural small batch company, we had some complaints about inconsistency of our chews. And that's why the number one thing that we always test is the efficacy of the dosing. So even though there might be variability in texture or flavor, the one thing that never changes is how much GABA and L-theanine is in a mood chew. But I would say that's kind of been one of the biggest things in terms of product quality. We've taken massive steps over the last 12 months to mitigate.
Hell yeah. I like that. That was one of the biggest things that we saw was like the hardness. A lot of people talk about the hardness of the chew. The Starburst expectation you gave is way different than the gummy, which made sense to me. But any other thoughts on like the hardness of the gummy or the chews?
Again, you start to get customer complaints and you have two choices. You either ignore it or you do something about it. And so, we took a lot of measures over the last 12 months. We started we started sealing our tins so that way it should maintain freshness. A huge thing we've also looked at is delivering the chews not in tins. And so we launched kind of this pouch for our loyal customers, and you can get it on Amazon where you can buy it in bulk, but being a resealable pouch will maintain freshness longer as well. Again, the one thing that never changes, and technically we could have a 24-month shelf life, is the efficacy of the amino acids. But when it's an all-natural, sugar-free vegan product, everything else to maintain that chew quality actually comes down to packaging and a few other levers that we can pull. And we recently implemented all of that.
Damn.
Cool. Yeah.
Sounds like a wild time. Sometimes I'm just so happy I'm in the service side of industry and business as opposed to putting a product out the door when I hear these stories from people we bring on here.
Physical goods, you're going to run into something's going to be on fire every week. Something is going to go wrong all the time. And just, kind of making sure that you're always developing and putting the best product you possibly can out in market. You just can't ever sacrifice that. It's not worth negative reviews. It's not worth negative customer experience. We've had to throw out batches. We've had to, make sure that everything is a challenge. Like, I don't know.
It's kosher.
Yeah. Kosher. Thank you. Like, what am I saying?
You got it. Something else that a Reddit user pointed out is a Proposition 65 settlement in California. Could you talk to us about what that is, what it means, like what it means for PYM and products and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Prop 65 is about how much lead is in your product. And we actually had a Prop 65 claim come through based off of the fact that we originally recommended up to 10 chews in a day. And technically, if you had 10 chews in a day, that one serving might violate Prop 65. And so we changed our recommended dose based off of that. And so, we didn't really have many people taking more than 2 to 5 in a day. But, we just, to be compliant, we made sure that we weren't, recommending 10.
Got it. That's wild. Something that's interesting that I found, because I had no idea what this was when I saw it, is that California is wild. Their restriction on lead in stuff is 100 times stricter than federal levels. Mm-hmm. So that's just wild. I never even knew that. For example, they don't allow 0.5 micrograms per serving, essentially. But if you eat one serving of spinach, you're likely going to be receiving 3 to 5-ish micrograms of lead. So it's just like, what on earth is going on here? I'm happy it exists, but still, that's insane.
And again, our recommended dose was based off of the max amount of amino acids that you could technically have in a day versus, the California restrictions on lead. And to your point, you could have the same dosing just from eating spinach. But I typically like all the regulations because international markets are very strict on these things. And I think California sets us up very well to be able to play in different markets easily.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like people hear lead and they like freak out like we're eating paint chips or something, but like it's just so different now. Okay, cool. That's interesting. Talk to us about your guys's, I'm not even going to try and pronounce their names, Dr. Raghu Aspinani and Dr. Nicole Brookins, PhD. What is they're on the website as far as like marketing claims and like these people are behind the products and services and things like that. but what is their day-to-day role? What do they do actually?
Absolutely. So either both of them or either of them have been the brains behind every single formulation that we currently have and the sourcing of the ingredients that we currently have. So Dr. Raghu Appasani is our chief medical officer, and Dr. Nicole Berkins is an advisor, and she's a holistic nutritional psychologist. Dr. Raghu Appasani is a trained MD psychiatrist, but he actually got his fellowship and was hyper focused on addiction at one point. And there's a lot of phenomenal research that he dives into about how certain things deplete your brain of nutrients that it needs to be at baseline. Addiction is a huge part of that. If you think about whether it's alcohol or other substance abuse, it strips your brain faster of what it needs to be at baseline. And so a lot of his, learning has come from that mentality. What are the things that not just, people going through addiction, but going through their daily lives have that strip their brains of the nutrients they need? One of those biggest things is chronic stress. And then how are we giving it back? Both of them have touched all of our formulations and are the ones who are working behind the scenes, going through all the science peer-reviewed studies and figuring out what that exact dosing is to put into the chews. Approach is super simple. Go through what we know is already working from a science peer-reviewed basis, and then it goes into food science mode where we go, how do we make it such an enjoyable experience that people are making it part of their daily lives?
Beautiful. So they're not just like figureheads. Like they're for real, like deeply involved in all that you guys are doing. That's awesome.
Specifically formulas. We needed a really strong team with neuroscience, psychiatry, nutrition backgrounds to really help us make sure that we were putting the best doses on the market possible.
Speaking of formulas, like what's next on your product roadmap?
What can I say?
Oh yeah, what are you allowed to tell us?
Hey, you're the boss now, so you can tell us whatever you want.
I'm thinking about two things for the future of PYM products. And one that is, looking at kind of the biggest need that we're seeing. And the biggest reports are low mood. So, as I mentioned, anxiety, stress during the pandemic, ability to focus and burnout, a couple years after that. And now we're looking at kind of a wave of low mood, and PYM is thinking about how we might be able to support those individuals. I am also heavily focused on making sure the brand is having conversations around stress resilience. And again, building a mind that can withstand, that doesn't need to run from stress in life. And if I'm thinking about who that potential customer is, I'm thinking about younger generations and what is the baseline nutrition we can give to developing minds. And those are the hints I'll drop.
That's interesting. I'm surprised y'all don't already have some type of creatine supplement or creatine chew or creatine something or another. While it is not an amino acid specifically, it is made of amino acids, but it's really good.
The research on creatine for mental well-being right now is massive, and a lot of new research has come out just within recent years that has us seriously looking at creatine. The research about creatine in the mind that excites me most is how it affects developing minds.
Yes.
Wink, wink. Hint.
Perfect. Detective Cody on the case here, but that's awesome. I love that. I mean, honestly, I try to get as many things from y'all as possible, which when we get to the lab results section and Chloe asked me if I buy these products, yes, I do. I'll just give you a heads up, everybody. And creatine is one that's like, it's just not there yet, that I can get from you guys from all in one spot. That'd be clutch, but I digress. That's cool. Is there something we like to ask in the next frontier section also is there a strategic partner in your industry that you'd like to work with and why?
Honestly, my dream partner is probably Brene Brown.
No way. I love Brene Brown.
The way she talks about the research around shame and building resilience in a mindset standpoint, I think coincides with all the conversations we want to have with stress resilience. Her work and how she is navigating these topics, I think, is top tier.
Couldn't agree more. Daring Greatly is on my bookshelf. I was trying to find it, but didn't want to distract us. ADHD. I need to chew. But Yeah, that's awesome. That'd be awesome. What would that partnership look like in your mind? Like you guys partnering as far as like she's on the mental side and you guys are helping support the physical side, or like what? How would you think about that?
I think it's conversational. I think what she has perfected the art of is encouraging people to listen to conversations about vulnerability.
Mm,
And one of the biggest things with stress resilience, there is this aspect of vulnerability and self admittance to yourself around stress. And again, I can't think of anyone who's spearheading those conversations more. And if there was anyone I would want to talk to on this topic, it would be her.
all right. Well, you can bet your ass we're gonna call her out on social media when we post one of these clips. Be like, "That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. That's great." And I agree with you. It is a vulnerable. Even this, literally, I think in our one-on-one this week, Chloe, you and I, you were like, "Cody, you need to take more days off," and I was like,
Yeah.
"All right, Chloe, I guess I do." And I'm just like being because I think I told you about Saturday. I just kind of randomly took a day off on accident almost, and how
Sorry, on a
different my
weekend.
brain and mind felt. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just saying, like, it's wild.
I'm sorry, are you saying you accidentally took a weekend day off? I think I've identified the problem.
Dude, that's a great point. I didn't even think about it that way. Okay, see, but this is my point. This is the vulnerability that it takes. Yeah, I mean, that is true. I do generally work on the weekends. I don't think about it as work necessarily, but then I went and like hung out with my friends and I went and hung out with my family and I did stuff on the weekend that wasn't just like working on Sunday. And I felt way better Sunday.
I forget who said this to me recently. It honestly might have been my own therapist, where one of the biggest things I can do for my mind and soul is to go for a hike and to walk up a mountain. And they worked on reframing that with me and going, isn't that work? Isn't it work to create mental clarity? Isn't it technically work to create those moments for yourself where actually the most creative ideas can flood in? And so seeing those little things that you do for yourself, whether it's spending time with loved ones or going for a walk, is actually work.
This is true. I agree. I'm with you. I guess I just didn't think about it on the weekends as much.
I work a lot of
I
weekends.
just, I mean, I don't know sometimes what else I would do is the thing. Like, it's like, I want to change the world. And why would I want to do that only 5 days a week?
I cannot disagree with that.
So, I mean, it's probably, Chloe played college volleyball too. All of us were college athletes, which is kind of wild because only like 2% of the earth is a college athlete. So to have three of us on one call is kind of, or maybe it's not nuts. Maybe because we were college athletes, it would lend us to being on a podcast talking about this exact thing.
No coincidences.
Okay, let's move into the lightning lab. The last question we like to ask, well, second to last question technically, but the last question that Chloe and I like to ask is, what's a question that you wish people asked you more often?
Does anybody ever have an immediate response to this?
Actually, some of the men that we interview are like, they just want to be asked how they're doing and have someone actually care. Like a non-0% of the men that we talk to say that, which is kind of wild.
I think I have a phenomenal support group, like friendships and everything that checks in on me. I think there's kind of always this like, how are you doing, and trying to give people a platform to kind of talk about what might be going wrong in life. I wish we were asking each other more, what's the latest win you've had? What is something, that's worked recently? I would love to be asked that more often, and it would help me make sure that I'm always thinking about the small wins as well.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, Erica, what is a small win recently that you have achieved or accomplished?
Small win recently, outside of being on this podcast.
Thank you very much.
You're like, you can do better than that. What is a small win? I'm actually thinking of a lot right now, which is cool, but I'm like, wait, what is a cool enough one to talk about?
Any win is cool. Now give us multiple.
You know what? I'm going to go a personal route. On Saturday, I climbed my first 14er.
Wow.
Big win.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. What's the average height of a mountain? Like, put this in context for someone who doesn't climb mountains.
I think the tallest mountain in the Santa Monica Mountains of LA is like 3,000 feet. So this was 11,000
Oh my God.
taller.
Congratulations. Holy shit. I would have passed out dead in the halfway up probably.
It's a massive misconception that you go from 0 to 14. That is not what happened. More like from 10 to 14, but being in altitude that high is kind of the difference for me. And why it was kind of a big win, as you just heard, my entire history with brain injuries, I had no idea how my brain would be at an altitude I've never been to before. I had never been above 10,000 feet before Saturday, and I started at 10,000.
Holy crap. I was literally just about to ask about that because that's like the number one thing I would worry about after having so many TBIs. Like, what was it like?
It was totally fine. Again, dove into the science. What does your brain need at altitude? How does it metabolize oxygen? And there was a couple of things with my own mind and body that I needed. So, for example, I recently found out last October I was having panic attacks for the first time since the brain injury. Couldn't figure out why I was having panic attacks. Turns out I was severely anemic, and I had to die laughing based off of the company I work for that I had a nutrient deficiency that was affecting the oxygen and neurotransmitter health in my brain, causing anxiety and causing a feeling of panic. I corrected the iron depletion and I haven't had a panic attack since. And so it was fully nutritional based. And so if you think about going up to high altitude, I knew for oxygen, I needed to make sure that my iron levels were okay. And then also carbs is what converts oxygen and for your mind to be able to function at its best at altitude. So it all came to nutrition for my brain.
Super cool.
Beautiful. What was
I live and breathe this.
Yeah, I can tell. What was the moment like when you got to the peak? That's something I'm interested in. Was there a moment?
There was a moment of shit that was easier than it should have been. And it felt like a dangerous unlock for me, if that makes sense. How many more mountains are in the future?
Everest is next. God, R.I.P. Count me out, dude. No, thank you. Alrighty. Last question we always ask. Flo, hit us up. But the last guest leaves a question for the next guest. So this is from a previous founder or a previous like CEO or whatever. Chloe.
So this one's from Barry from Energy Lounger. And he asks, how are you going to enhance humanity? And why do you think you'll do it differently than what exists today?
What a phenomenal question, Barry.
I know.
You know, if you really take PYM products out of it completely, you know, I really hope to spark curiosity in each individual that I kind of come across into the inner workings of their mind and, you know, what is one thing that they might be able to do to optimize that for themselves, whether it's cognitively, mood, you know, whatever that means. And I can't imagine a world where everyone is trying to take care of their own mind first and how that could impact humanity at a greater level. So I will start and stay focused on the individual and their mental wellness.
Love it. A vision after my own heart. That's beautiful. Okay, cool. What's a question that you want to leave for our next guest? You don't know who they are, but they're in the health and wellness space.
I think it's what is one thing you're doing today to prepare your mind for tomorrow?
It's almost like you were born to be the CEO of this company, fitting the company name into the very question you ask. Savage. That's impressive. My hat is off to you. Let us, well, thank you so much for joining us today. This is a great time. I had an awesome time chatting with you and love your products too. I mean, I use them, people. So we'll talk about it in the lab results section here in a second with Chloe and I, but we both use them and I love them. So appreciate you hopping on with us and having a conversation.
Awesome. Can I leave with 20% off your next order with code DecisionLab?
Hell yeah. I was about to say anything you want to leave the crew with or any place you want to point them. So yes, please. Anything you want to leave in wrapping up.
There you go. YouCanPym.com, 20% off, code DecisionLab.
Amazing. Thank you.
Will I be using that code for myself? Possibly. I'm kidding, but yes, please, if you guys are interested, go check out Prepare Your Mind and use the code DecisionLab. Get you 20% off. So appreciate that. Well, thanks. We'll leave the website in the comments and all this, the code and all this other information as well in the comments. And that's it for our conversations. Our viewers know the lab results is next with Chloe and I, but we're saying bye to Erica. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
Thank you.
Welcome to the lab results, everyone. Chloe needs to take some of the products that we are talking about today. Tell people where you're at. You're in Germany.
I'm in Germany, in Nuremberg.
Yeah, so it's 2, it's like 3 p.m. Central Time. But for you, it's like 10, almost 11.
Oh no, it's almost 10. Almost 10.
Almost 10.
Not that late.
So time for bed. Time for
for
bed.
bed.
We appreciate you sticking around for this later podcast. So let's talk about Prepare Your Mind. Lab results is where we kind of talk about what we really think and our thoughts on the products and things like that. So anything off the top of your head about Prepare Your Mind that you want to get off your chest?
I mean, we've taken the product. So I've tried their magnesium. I think it's great. Their attention chews, their mood chews. I found everything effective. Like I really, really liked it. Great flavor. Some people complain about the hardness of the chew. I kind of like it. It kind of gives your mouth like a nice stimulation. So from like a personal product review perspective, I love it. Absolutely love it. I would continue to use it, purchase it. And then from the science perspective, I think they are onto something using amino acids. They're, naturally occurring versus like something that's a little bit more foreign to your body, like ashwagandha or rhodiola. She has a point about consistency with amino acids. I do really, really agree with that point there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool that they're getting like good results with GABA. I know like one thing I wanted to research before this podcast I didn't is the controversy of whether or not GABA crosses the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
But there has been recent research suggesting that maybe not all of it is bioavailable to the brain, but like a large amount or moderate to large amount is.
Interesting.
I noticed like it could completely be placebo, but I notice when I take GABA.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard not to. A lot of the times, I feel like it's what's the reason Xanax chills you out is because of how it affects GABA as well. Like, so these anti-anxiety things that people take and stuff lead to that. It's not strictly GABA, but it's interesting. Yeah. So, would you say that it passes the lab results section from your perspective?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So for me, I think I'm always harder on this. I think it needs, where I'd put it is needs more testing as far as like direct research with the specific products. The research they use to put all of the ingredients together into their product, there's lots of great research around the individual ingredients. I'm very excited to see the research that comes from when they do testing with their literal products with all of the ingredients in one. That does not mean I don't use the products. I've gone through like 3 tins of the attention chews and mood chews. So as far as what I actually buy this and what I actually use this 100%, the magnesium stuff, these little things are insane. It's not just one magnesium, L-theanine, malate, glycinate, and some B vitamins and some L-theanine. Holy shit. These things before bed, like I start drinking mine at like 7:30. I'm in bed by like 9:30, 10ish. I have the craziest dreams. I sleep so well. My Whoop sleep score is in the 90s. Like it's nuts how for me, and again, this is anecdotal. This is why I believe it needs some more research. But for me, I really feel that same thing with the mood chew, same thing with the attention chews. So I think it could use a little bit more testing on the actual products themselves. But as far as research they can do on the individual things and the science they've put behind what they're doing, I do believe that like they're right on. They're dead on. Like I love it. Was there anything surprising that you learned while we were chatting with Erica?
I feel like there's a lot of things.
I could tell you the one that surprised me. What was it?
What was the one that surprised you?
The one that surprised me was the chewing thing. How the chews are a little harder because part like that chewing, the mastoid action or whatever is supposedly supposed to help you relax and calm down. And just having that level of thought in a product like this is just wild.
Yeah. And the flavor that's meant to make you salivate. I thought that was really well thought out.
Yeah. Yeah. The level of detail that they put into these is kind of mind blowing, honestly. Any surprise moments or like things you wanted to point back or revisit?
I just think, this episode really kind of covers like the foundations of brain health and that like there's so much that goes into it and like your brain health really controls the quality of your life. And even just like what she was saying about at altitude or being iron deficient and having panic attacks. And that's something I resonate with too, is like I'm iron deficient and my anxiety is way worse when I'm not getting enough iron. And so sometimes we might think we're broken, but maybe it's just a nutrient deficiency.
Dude, it's more evidence that there's no the mind, brain, and body are all one thing.
It's all one thing. It's all connected. Completely agree.
Just saying. The thing that not a surprise moment, but I thought she handled well was the Proposition 65, which is like where California like comes at people for being under or over certain levels or whatever. I thought she handled that well and explained it really well about how it was a like dosing issue. and not something like there's lead leaking into the chews or whatever. So I thought that was awesome. I wasn't sure how that would go. I didn't know if that would be something that would be like they're trying to like hide or keep away, but she was just straight up about it. I love transparency, so I thought that was amazing, and she handled that well. So cool. All right. Well, anything else? Any other final thoughts about Prepare Your Mind?
I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think that's all. I mean, Chloe and I have both met Zach, one of the founders too. He's his story is awesome as well. Like the founding story, hearing it from his perspective is cool too. So there's like a hugely great purpose behind it. They donate 1% of their proceeds to Bring Change to Mind, which is a mental health nonprofit that is working to like end stigma and discrimination around mental illness. So they're doing a lot of things right. Pretty impressed with a lot of what they came up with, and the things I was questionable on, she answered in the show. So I was just like, oh, okay. Wow, this is cool. Yeah. Shout out to Prepare Your Mind. Like she mentioned, if you use code Decision Lab on their website, prepareyourmind.com, or actually, is it prepareyourmind.com? Let me make sure I get that right. YouCanPYM.com. YouCanPYM.com. Use Decision Lab as a code to get 20% off. So shout out to them for giving our viewers that. That's amazing. Thank you, Erica and team. And that's it for today's episode on the Decision Lab. If you guys like this approach to wellness, you should hit subscribe on YouTube and also hit the share button with all of your friends and family. Save their life. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, hit the subscribe button. And if there's a brand you want us to investigate or an expert you want us to talk to next, hit us up on Instagram. We love hearing from you guys. We love asking questions from you guys. And we're listening. We're listening. Ask us. What do you want from us? We're here for you. We get to talk to these founders. You don't, but we want you to talk through us. So please drop comments, DM us, whatever works. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on Decision Lab. Peace.